Anyway, we'll use this one. This is fine. And thank you for the introduction. And thank you for having me here. It's you know, we go to a lot of places. Last week we were up at Horsehead Crossing and for a couple of days in the dust. And it's good because it's historic. And we actually meet with our Comanche friends that are up there. They come down and stay with us in Brackville. We go to stay with them. But let me start how I got started. Because a lot of this old documentation is excellent, and we need it. And we can learn from that because most of us don't know it. We just know that a lot of things happened a long time ago. But what? But for our families, when we ask each other, ask my parents, ask my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, and growing up, so what are we? Are we indigenous and are we Indians or what's going on? And so they would say, well, you know, I think so. We probably are. Oh yeah, we got it. And we never got a real definite answer. I always wondered why. And that's one of those things that I raised my children to ask, why? And most of us told them, that's enough why, because I said so, you know, you finally had to say it. Because, and that wasn't enough for me. I needed to know. So as I got older, I video recorded every single one of my relatives, all on both my mother and my father's side. I want to get to where I first started, but then I want to take it back where, you know, this was all left off and how I found those types. And video recording my aunt on my father's side of the family in Eagle Pass. So I asked, because my great-grandmother had lived to be 104 years old. And at 104, you know, I'm 75, and you know, and some of us just a few years older than me, you know, they got a little bit of Alzheimer's. He forgets a lot, or she forgets a lot. And you have to be careful what, you know, what they say and how you take it. And you just can't remember. Well, she's 104. So I asked my aunt, did she ever talk about her young days or her parents? And this is the homework assignment I always give teachers and students when we go to schools. Is ask the next time you see your grandparents, ask them, Grandma or Grandpa, tell me about your grandparents. That's your story. You'll never get it once your grandparents are gone. I didn't want to let that happen. So I asked my aunt. She said, yeah, she remembers a lot of things. But Richard, I don't know how truthful or how accurate this is because some of the stuff, I don't think it exists. I think she was just talking. I don't know. Well, you remember what she said? Well, yes. So one of the stories was about her grandmother and her grandfather. They had been taken by the Spaniards in chains and away from Texas towards Mexico City. Well, they get way down there while they escaped. They were able to break the chains with stones on the way back to Texas, and they made it back. My great-grandmother was buried in Eagle Pass today. So that really happened. And there were other stories too, but that story kind of made me wonder. Well, I would have put it in 1700, 1770, 1780, and there, it's kind of hard to tell because I didn't know how old her grandmother was when all this happened. Well, nowadays, and that story I had years before Google and all this stuff, which will accelerate your research. And at my age, when I retired, I was 52 years old. I had to learn how to work these computers. My younger officers asked me, hey, so what do you do here? And so, anyway, I got up to speed, sort of, but I got dangerous enough so I could research and find information. So I Googled Spaniards, Apaches, and chains. Keywords that may have been written in some document or book or something, and a book had been written. It was published in New Mexico Press. It was a documentation of the deportation of 2,500 Apaches by the Spaniards, 1770 to 1810, away from here. And anyway, so it details how they call them actually pieces, piezas. Llevamos 60 piezas. We're taking 60 pieces, men, women, and children. The children they would give out as servants or slaves. They didn't believe in slaves or servants. Okay. The women, if they resisted, well, they kept them all the way to Mexico City. Some of these put to sea. Some they actually took offshore and threw overboard. So it was getting more information. And so I kept reading the book. It details how some point, some of the soldiers would have to write ahead, we'd take the 60 pieces, and they show with 50 what happened to the other 10. So the leadership would ask them, where's the other 10? Well, they tried to escape and killed them. They didn't make it. Well, how do we know you didn't turn them loose? Well, they paid you off. We're not paying you for nothing. So they paid them for nothing. So they wasted a whole trip. That was a long trip. So from then on, tried to escape. They killed you, cut your hands off, and picked them in a jar. Therefore, the title of the book, The Jar of Seven Hands. How you doing? So she was right. We're the ones that had all those Alzheimer's, not listening to her. And because it was important information, and how are we going to understand this? Now, when I had the information, I didn't have Google, and so we kind of felt, well, what was he doing? And she lost her mind. And but you know what? It was us. But fortunately, I kept asking that why. That it was important. I wasn't trying to find out if she would tell the truth or not. I was trying to find out if that actually happened. Did it happen? Well, each one of their stories, and to the T. I bought an extra book. I gave it to my aunt. I just set it on the table, and I left. I said, Tia, read that book when she was a teacher in legal class. And then when we think of, all right, yeah, I'm going to go. That's fine. About a week later, she called me, Richard, where did you get this book? Grandma telling the story, word for word. I thought she had Alzheimer's. We have to listen. We have to record some of these stories that we think there's no truth to it. She made it up. That place doesn't exist. And, well, it existed. Maybe not by the word that she's using, but a different word that my mom used to call what she was born and raised in Woodwood. So it's Edinburgh. And but my great grandmother would call, living along the Guadalupe River over here, east of San Antonio, a place she had been raised as a young child, as Queens. Which wasn't that Queens, but it was Queens. Richard, that place don't exist. So I Googled places and farms and people, and there's no Queens. I couldn't find no Queens. Well, maybe she did have a little until one day, the sheer story was, you see the house the way it is right now? That's the way we left it. They had friends, you know, kids, we can friend. Our kids friend anybody that will play with them. Or they have a toy that they don't have, or candy or whatever, oh, they'll friend anybody. Especially with not very many kids. And they had friended these other kids. And one day those kids came running on their horses, all just out of breath. Get out of here, you gotta leave. There's German soldiers coming to kill you. You gotta go now, here. She says, see the house? This is the way we left it. We got on our horses and wagons and we left. And all the way to Laredo before we stopped. They get to Laredo. And other Indians are leaving Mexico. Don't go in there, they'll kill you. The soldiers are killing everybody. Where are we supposed to go? And then somebody finally asked them, who are you? We're coming from over here, and we're Apaches. And they tell them, oh, they're afraid of you guys. They won't even bother you guys. So they thought about it for a while, so they crossed. And sure enough, it was like if they had mopped the riverbed with blood. They killed masses of people. Well, they lived down there for a couple of years. The soldiers found them, but true to the people that were told them, they were afraid of them. They knew if they harmed one Apache, or you're going to deal with all of them. So they moved north to Quemada, that's in Texas, between the Pass and Del Rio, and then both sides of the river. Because then it was a river, it wasn't a border, it was a river. And they lived on, and that's where my grandparents in that area were born. Not there, but as he said, a lot of us Apaches were semi-nomadic. My grandfather was born west of Loma in the Devil River Canyon, where the Buffalo soldiers were stationed to make sure to get rid of all the Apaches out of the canyons out there. Because it was pretty rugged. It's still rugged now. There's not a lot of houses in there. He tells stories that when he was just a little boy, so small, you know, they would hide in the bushes. He said the soldiers would come so close that they could actually touch them, but they didn't see them. Not that good at hiding. Or maybe the soldiers just didn't want to find me. I don't know. Either one, I'm here to tell the story. Either way. And so here I am. They finally got tired of that and he moved on. Well, his birth certificate reads Del Rio. I'm sorry, Eagle Pass. So why isn't that correct? Why does it say? Because as my father was born in Del Rio, my birth certificate. But was he born in Del Rio? So I asked my grandmother. She was 96, going on 97. And I had just retired, and I stayed with her for 7 months. I did some work at her house. It was pretty handy. I wanted to earn my keep. And I would sit with my grandmother, sometimes by myself, because I wanted her to tell me directly the stories of her parents, her grandparents. Because my aunts, if I asked her, well, she started volunteering the story, like, hijo, teníamos piso de madera. Son, we had a wooden floor. My aunts would finish the story. It was a beautiful story. The only house in that neighborhood that had a wooden floor. And one day I'm by myself. She said, please have a wooden floor. And she had cancer that was progressing along her throat, so she talked to him like just a few words at a time. So I had to take her time to listen. Like, tell me the rest, you know? And then okay, I heard that story. Just because when the soldiers would come, oh wow, I didn't hear this part. And she would pause for a few minutes, sometimes, come on, you know, and so she said her mom would hide her little sister under the floor and nail the doors over. Give them a little jar of water and say, do not answer to anybody except your mother or your father. And they would leave them for days, and soldiers would come. It sounded like they were going to come crashing through the floor. But here I am to tell the story. And one time they even burnt their house down. But it didn't burn the floor. And here I am to tell the story. So I told my aunts who were in the other room talking and eating, and like we all do. The rest of the story, I felt like Paul Harvey. And they go, Richard, where did you get this story? You want to be in this so bad. Your mom's on the other side of this wall. Go ask her. So there they are. I have a big family. My father was the oldest of 12 children. I have aunts that are even younger than I am. And so my grandmother would finish the story. And my aunts would go, Mom, why didn't you ever tell us this? You don't shut up. You want to tell a story like you were there, so beautiful? And Richard, listen, I felt bad for my aunts, but still, we need to learn how to ask. One of my aunts was 104 years old. When I video record, my only rule when I video record anybody is nobody ask any questions or make any comments. Let them tell the story. My cousins were in their 80s and said, well, their mom was going to just take like 15 minutes and she's going to get tired. As a matter of fact, she's got a little bit of Alzheimer's too. You know how that goes. She's 104 and I don't know what she's going to say. But she's going to get tired in 15 minutes and want to go to sleep. That's okay. I'll take that 15 minutes. So I have to make sure, okay, I got everything ready. So when she goes, hi, Richard, you want, okay, yeah, just get this started, you know, and 3.5 hours later, she finally said, I'm done. She had sang a song, a beautiful song she learned when she was 4 years old. And when she said it was done, my cousins almost simultaneously, all of them said, Mom, why didn't you ever sing us this song? Why didn't you tell us these stories? Yet never asked. What were they waiting for? What are we waiting for? We need to ask. Well, let me get on with this show. Okay, you know, that's who we are. And, okay, that one too. Oh, this is the end. I'm going the wrong way. Like I said, I'm not very computer. I'm just dangerous enough to do some searches. Okay, I think maybe it was the right way. Okay, we'll get to it down here. Or maybe it's the wrong thing there. By the way, this was when we were up in Menard, where a mission was built for our families in San Salvador on the Sunset Road. And we were taking these, where the fort is, we were walking down like where there's water. Because you can find this stuff, and always be close to water. Not next to water, it's close to water. You can find the grinding stones, artifacts, whatever, near water. So that we migrated our water here, but it had to be near water. We need water to live. There were no faucets. You better find water. So if you go from here to Camp Wood, all these hills, you better find water along the way, or take some water with you, because you're walking. Now from Camp Wood, where are you going? Somewhere else, there better be water. So we were going down there because I had found them during the off period of time when we were at the fort there, and so I was going to take some of the young kids and tell them about why they are there. Let me see if I'm going in the right direction. So here's the crown dancers we had come up to as the bracket road. And the crown dancers, I've taken other people up to Mescalero to 4th of July weekend. They have ceremonies for the girls when they're coming of age. I had some pictures of when we do presentations, and there were these pictures. And a Catholic priest and a couple of nuns asked me, this is in Mexico. That beautiful pictures, what kind of ceremony is that? There were girls dressed in yellow. Like my wife. Matter of fact, let me introduce her. This is Tactilla. Tactilla in Apache means the humble lady. So this is the only time you're going to see her sit. But they were asking about this ceremony, and I said, "Have you heard of the quinceañera ceremonies?" "Oh yeah, that's an old ceremony." "How old?" "Well, it's pretty old." "How old?" I mean, do they do it in Rome? At the head of the Catholic Church. In Italy? No quinceañeras. How about in Spain? They do them in Spain? I don't think so. An Apache ceremony. It lasts 4 days and 4 nights. These crown dancers dance that whole time. The ceremony is going on right here next to it. Their purpose is to anything that comes to the ceremony that's bad goes to them. Leave the girls alone. These are our leaders. They're coming of age. The first menstrual cycle is starting, and we put them through the ceremony to not only teach them, but to teach us and remind us who the life givers are. Men are not life givers. Get that straight. First, our job is different. To make sure those girls complete the ceremony, because they will at one time give life to one of us. If it doesn't happen, we die. All of us. So that quinceañera comes from this type of ceremony, not just with Apaches, but other indigenous people. And they bastardized it and took it and put it in one day of getting drunk and fighting and doing the same essential thing, casting off the doll, so they're coming of age. Where this ceremony, not this part of the ceremony, but this crown dancers are done, not one of them speaks, and not one of them can be recognized by name. None of them. It's not savage, it's not war dancing, it's not any of that. It's to make sure the girls complete their ceremony. I'm running for water board in Breckenridge. And right away, people demonize me because I'm an Apache, I'm therefore a pagan, devil-worshipping somebody. Excuse me, how well do you know me? Because obviously not. It's just, we're going with what we were raised to think of Apaches, of Comanches. We were at Forsyth Crossing, helping our Comanche friends set up their teepees last year, and some anthropologists came over. Hey, this is historic. Hey, and a couple of them came over. Isn't this the first, how long has it been since Apaches and Comanches stood in the same place and actually helping each other? We're helping each other. And they were struggling to, when did that last happen? So I told them, last week. We were at their houses. And when they come and visit us, they stay with us. This happens all the time. No, you guys are like arch enemy, you kill each other. I said, who wrote that? Did I write that? Did our Comanche friends write that? No, you wrote that. Obviously you were wrong. They're our neighbors. The French armed them, gave them horses to kill us, to expand their territory. As the Spaniards did to us, to push the Comanches back, like in the other picture before over here in Menard, to take more land. Can you point to 1 square inch of the state of Texas that's designated for Apaches? Or any Indian tribe from Texas? 1 square inch. Can you tell me where it is? Unless I bought it. There isn't. 0. So anyway, this ceremony, this is at Fort Clark and Bracketville. I think I'm pressing the wrong buttons here, but that's okay. We'll move along. This is us singing. Some of our elders were singing there at Fort Clark. Crown dancers again. These were from White Mountain, Arizona. This is us in Musquis, with the Mascocos in Mexico. These kids, they wanted us to be in the parade, and they wanted us to be first in their parade. It's just a little community. I mean, it couldn't be like 200 people live in this town. They have a little school, and these kids wanted us to be at the front of the parade. We were down there with Seminoles and Muskogos, were black or mixed black, in Seminoles in Mexico. And we had, these kids, their families had come around, and they invited us to go to this little town. And so anyway, we did. It was an honor to do that. Here's their, one of the Kickapoos over in Mexico, his tribal police in Mexico. This is also in Mexico, over all the way to Chihuahua, in the Copper Canyon area, with Tarahumara, the Tarahumara Apaches. These are Tarahumara Apaches. And they were having a ceremony there. We were the women. In Huachochi, with Tarahumara. This is us in Bracketville. You ever go the first weekend of March? We kind of turned it into our event. It used to be a soldier event. It still is. Well, this is the ceremony I'm telling you about with the girls.